The brain is absolutely ridiculous and one of the least understood aspects of the natural kingdom. We don't even understand how the brain of a worm works, so how on earth are we meant to comprehend our own evolved grey matter? Psychology's only been studied for 130 years and we're still making huge discoveries every year. My mum's a psychologist, so I grew up hearing about all of this stuff and really took for granted some of the things I learned. So like any responsible millennial, I decided to start a podcast about it and share the sweet, sweet gift of therapy. I'm sat on the couch with my mum, Sandy. She's a psychologist with over 20 years' experience studying and treating clients. Hi, Mum.
Hi, Adam. Is it getting worse and worse?
You sound overjoyed. We're going to release a new episode every week and talk about a different aspect of mental health and therapy, and hopefully some of you will find it really useful. All our episodes are filmed on YouTube, and if you want to watch us actually sit on the couch in front of the fire, I need to put another log on actually in a minute. The link will be on our Instagram bio. We can be everywhere at On The Sofa Pod, YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff. Give us a follow if you like the podcast and rate us 5 stars on iTunes because it helps us reach more folk. Tell your friends about us. Mm-hmm. Want 1,000 listeners by the end of the first month would be nice.
Wow, would be amazing.
Would be. This week, this month, this section, we're doing methodology month. So we're talking about the three very popular techniques used in therapy. Mm-hmm. Last week we did CBT, it's a big buzzword, and this week we're doing PCT. So take it away.
Okay.
What's PCT?
So person-centered therapy. It's what we call a humanistic approach that works with the many people, how they perceive themselves consciously rather than being analysed by a therapist that interprets their unconscious mind, their thoughts and ideas. PCT does not offer solutions.
Oh.
Or interpretations or guidance.
So there's nothing coming from the therapist here.
Well, there is.
Okay, there's no maybe like you're feeling like this from the therapist. There's no.
It will offer acceptance, empathy, and respect, unconditional positive regard, and it's hoped that this approach will empower the client so that they can find solutions to their own problems. What do you think of that?
Okay, so straight away it sounds like this is offering a person that evolutionary need for positive human interaction more than anything else. Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs stuff. This is community.
Yeah.
On the pyramid.
Definitely. So.
What? Why'd you make that face?
Because my hand just touched the thing and it moved.
Oh, Mum's on the iPad.
So the history of PCT.
Yep.
A humanistic approach that was developed by Carl Rogers, a psychologist in the 1950s.
Okay, so like 70 years old now.
The client is presented with an environment that helps them to explore their life, an environment where they're free from threat, both physically and emotionally. The clients are encouraged to authentically explore the past and present elements of their life in a very safe environment. Carl Rogers was an amazing guy, and there's quite a few videos of him on doing therapy. But I remember years ago when I was studying, somebody said, it might have been him, said, if you put a sack of potatoes in the cellar or a dark place, hope I get this right, if the conditions are right, they'll seed. Does that sound right?
Yeah, they'll grow roots.
Yeah. I hope I've got this right after this, but everything in his head was about conditions.
Whereas if you put the same sack of potatoes in your washroom, they'll rot.
Yeah.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know where that
I just know that because our potatoes always rot in our washroom.
Okay.
Whereas if we put them in the cellar, maybe they would seed. You're right though, if you leave a potato and it starts getting all the roots coming out of it.
They are.
Yeah, and everyone's like, oh, that's gross. But actually it means you're keeping your potatoes well.
Yeah. So his kind of theory was, if you can create accurate conditions within that therapy room, the client will feel so connected that they will consciously find out their own solutions, with no solution input from the therapist. And I have to say, person-centred therapy is at the backbone of most therapies, because you have to provide all those conditions.
For the other methodologies too?
Even in CBT, it starts with PCT. So it is the backbone, if you think about it logically. But it doesn't suit everybody on its own.
Okay.
Like it wouldn't suit me if I
don't think it would have suited me.
Therapy, because I want you to help me collect a toolbox.
And I don't think I would have known what my problems are just talking to somebody. I don't think I'd ever feel comfortable enough in a situation to do that.
Because?
I don't think that I really talk about how I feel to anybody, really.
No.
So even people I really care about and I'm very comfortable around. So it wouldn't be any different in a therapy session. I need someone to dig for it.
Yeah. So you can see, we'll do pros and cons. So the pros of PCT, the ability to express personal feelings and opinions and achieve better self-awareness by finding a balance between the idealised self and the actual self.
Okay,
so
let's unpack that. What does all that mean?
So you were just talking about you and how this approach on its own wouldn't have suited you. I totally agree, because your idealised self is I'm fine.
Okay, so what did you say? Right. Idealised and realised?
And actual.
Actual. Okay, so what's the difference?
So let's say your actual self is, as a part of your defence mechanism, is quite cut off. Emotionally. Repressed. And your idealised self comes across as very different to that.
Got you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's like more actualised. Actual self is what you are.
Yeah.
And idealised.
And you might not even know that.
Yeah, idealised is what you present.
Yeah.
Got you.
So it's helpful at reducing feelings of guilt and insecurity about self, and also to strengthen trust in the self and others. The cons of PCT, it does require the client to be motivated to be able to communicate well.
Got you. Right.
So communication skills do need to be quite good. And just to unpack that a little bit more, your communication skills are very good, but your defences, repressed, are very well protected. So you need to unpack that a little bit. As there's no advice or interventions offered, this can be quite frustrating for an individual client that wants a psychological toolbox of interventions to help them cope.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think I say a lot of people because I can't say any names, can I? So if everyone's like, oh, he knows a lot of people, might be the same people for you, I just can't say names, obviously. But folk that I know that see therapists and see them for a really long time, I think this is kind of the majority of the work they're doing, maybe mixed with CBT, but it's talking about how was your week this week? Oh, this happened. Okay, why do you feel like that about that event? And which is super useful, and like it really helps you manage, as we've said before, current affairs stuff. Like it really, really does. But it doesn't solve if you have certain issues or certain things going on. Like definitely, like I did / do. That isn't going to get to that. It's not even going to touch that. So it might help you manage symptoms really well, but without other things, it's not going to like dig into it.
I mean, that depends on the therapist and the client, really.
Okay.
Because, as I say, it can work for some people that are really in touch with their actual self, but they've never felt the right environment to actually pull that out. Yeah. But that environment that they're in now might be something they have never ever experienced before, and it might feel pretty good. So would that be someone, for example, that came from like a family with lots of siblings
Where they maybe didn't get the amount of attention that they wanted?
Yeah. Anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it can work. I've put another bit in here about when is PCT really useful. When it's used alongside another orientation.
Right. Okay.
I think it's a necessity.
I mean, without this, if you're putting someone in a situation where they're uncomfortable and then you're trying to do some other work with them, it's just not going to come off.
No. It offers a calm environment that allows the client complete control over the subject matter of the day. So the therapist just basically
mirrors them.
Yeah.
For an hour.
Says hello and nice to see you. Well, they don't say that, but great to see you today. And then they let them open it.
So what would, I mean, I'm just smiling because that's exactly what a lot of my sessions were like.
It's as we've already said, it's non-directive approach which allows the client to steer the conversation in a warm, caring and trusting environment. It empowers the client to grow.
Definitely.
Psychologically, and can help them to develop into an autonomous person that learns to have confidence in themselves as an individual through self-acceptance.
So what's actually happening in the brain when you're doing this? So with CBT, we basically said it's like building habits. CBT is building...
changing your thinking.
Yeah, building thinking habits is more what I meant. So if you used to think negatively about a certain thing, it's slowly training yourself to think positively about the same thing. What's PCT doing to help?
It's teaching you that you're important.
That you're valid, that your opinions are valid and stuff.
And that what you think and feel is valid, and you need to sort of acknowledge that, because they might not have had the opportunity to do that. So it's very different to the other therapies, but again, I feel it's the backbone to most, if not all, therapies.
Would you say that you kind of fall back to this and then let the client, if you're, I don't know, starting with a new therapist, you'll fall on this and you'll like meander a bit, and then they'll say something that you pick up and you're like, so you just mentioned this thing, and you're like, well, that could actually be a lot more serious than they're saying, and that's when you start bringing in other things. So you let them lead it until you're kind of working out where stuff lies and what's important, and then you kind of make your...
Not in PCT, you wouldn't do that, because that would be considered leading.
So you just don't lead them at all?
You're not supposed to lead at all. They've got more power, if you like. That's the wrong word. They wouldn't even use that word, but they're leading it. They're leading every session.
Who would this not suit?
Somebody that's got a very solution-focused mind. Somebody that's defense mechanisms are repression. Sorry.
Not aggression.
Not regression. Repression. Somebody who has got maybe terrible PTSD. A lot of people, on its own, it might not be good.
But it's good for people who are more in touch with their emotions generally and just need help exploring them.
Or even if they're not in touch with them, it might help them evolve and grow. What have I put here? The client is not challenged. They're deprived of opinions or suggestions from the therapist that could be really useful. The structure that many...
This is a con. It's like a bad side of it.
Yeah.
That the therapist isn't meant to weigh in and give their thoughts.
It's kind of just highlighting what I think.
Yeah.
The structure that many clients prefer is not provided by the therapist, which can be difficult for the client as they may be overwhelmed with emotions. The lack of interventions and techniques, this is a pro, sorry, can help a client, and this is essentially what many clients require. So just to recap on that, some clients do not want to be challenged.
Yeah.
Some clients have been deprived of their opinions and their suggestions in life. So they might find that useful, and they don't want someone else to structure their sessions. They want to structure them. They want to start where they want to start, because they don't get that opportunity outside of the session.
Got you.
They don't want somebody to say, you know, if you tried this, which is an intervention, that might help you get to this. They don't want that. They don't want techniques in that way.
So, I guess the way to make this useful for somebody listening is, how do you recognise that, it's not always good to try and like work out what your therapist is doing. I think that's very constructive. But at what point would you say, I don't know if this is really right for me? Because as you say, it's going to be used a lot of the time in a therapy context for all sorts of things. It's probably going to lead back to this and then move on to somewhere else, and that's normal. But at what point can you be like, well, I think maybe this has gone on too long, or like I'd like a bit more of an evolved approach? Sorry.
It's the fire, Adam.
It's warm, it's cosy in here.
I just think that hopefully with the earlier podcasts you would have decided that maybe this is either for you or it's not, as a standalone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Do you think that, like, I'm just thinking about my experience, do you think this is something that if you're kind of done with the big stuff, this is something that if you find yourself week on week doing a lot of this kind of talking, like not really guided conversation, it probably means you're done, in inverted commas, that you're pretty okay if this is what your therapist thinks is right?
What do you mean?
That it's like, if you're going to therapy for a prolonged period of time and you find that after you did some really heavy CBT work and you did some trauma work or whatever, and then you find yourself doing a lot of this PCT for a prolonged period of time, you're probably in a good place, and this is just managing day-to-day stuff work, and maybe you should try phasing therapy out.
Yeah, maybe.
If this is all you're doing now.
Yeah, unless it uncovers stuff that you've never felt comfortable talking about before.
Got you. Okay.
So the environment might bring that out. I've put another one here. PCT is very useful when an individual hasn't ever been felt valued for who they are, or never experienced a relationship where they are clearly the driver. When a client feels understood and listened to in a world where they have never had that experience, this can be quite a game changer. So it isn't all about interventions and solution focused work. Some people really need this.
They just need somebody to connect with them. Wow. So
yeah, they don't want to be challenged. They just want to be facilitated in the relationship.
Sure. I mean, like we said in a previous episode, so much of this is so commonsensical. Oh, I'm feeling really down. You need to talk to somebody. And this is literally just, you need to talk to somebody, they need to listen to you and not offer their thoughts, just listen to you to talk and for you to feel comfy. That is the simplest thing ever, isn't it? But it's so fundamental. And
so many people, certain friends actually do that.
Yeah.
Literally do that.
Yeah, and I think that's why, you know, when people say, you should talk to your friends, it's like, well, I think talk to your friends. Like, no, but like really talk to your friends. Like, feel comfortable to explore yourself. And if you are one of those friends, something that I'm not that great at, I need to get better at, is just non-judgmentally listening and not trying to fix it. I'm really bad at trying to help people fix their stuff, and actually a lot of the time it's better to not at all and just let them fix it. And if you feel the need to try and say like, oh, maybe have you tried this, instead, like, just encourage them to explore it themselves.
Or wait for them to say, what would you do?
Yeah, wait to be asked for your opinion rather than offering your opinion, for sure. Because you're taking the power away from them. If you say, oh, have you tried this? Then it's come from you. Whereas if they ask you, then they feel like they've sort of wanted that, and they're offering you the chance to have the power for a second.
Yeah, they'll tell you what they want eventually, or what they need, should I say?
Definitely.
From you. So it's quite interesting, isn't it? How, but basically, Carl Rogers was saying that the more authentic you are and empathic in that environment, the basic principles are evident: congruence even, unconditional positive regard, and empathic understanding. He believed that and a lot of counsellors believe, therapists, should I say, believe that is all you need.
Interesting. That was really good. Thank you for that. Next week, we're going to be looking at psychodynamic therapy, which I actually have no idea about, so I'm looking forward to that one. Thank you very much for listening / watching on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, go and watch us there. It's lots of fun. Cosy, isn't it?
Yeah, lovely and cosy.
Lovely and cosy. Give us a follow on Instagram @OnTheSofaPod, and we'll see you next week for Psychodynamic.
Brilliant.